Hello, and we are live. Hello, welcome everybody to the Katie Halper Show live stream. Really excited to have on Asad Haider, who is the author of Mistaken Identity. He's also an editor at Viewpoint Magazine. So welcome, Asad.
Thanks for having me, Katie.
You look really excited.
Yes.
So I actually wanted to start off by asking you for your take on Bernie Sanders, which you've written about at Salon and kind of also at Viewpoint. You're the most critical guest probably of Bernie Sanders that I've allowed onto my show. Although you have a soft spot for him, though you won't admit it. So what is to be done now? What happened first before we get to the what is to be done question? How do you describe what happened with the Bernie campaign?
What happened is that we saw some of the limitations of working within the capitalist state, which is that an electoral campaign emerged that challenged the underlying structures of capitalist power. And so the machinery of the Democratic Party did everything that it could to shut it down. And it succeeded in doing that. And so the great challenge now for people who were politicized and mobilized by the Bernie Sanders campaign is to try to think about ways to continue that kind of oppositional politics in a way which isn't subordinated to the ruling class apparatus.
Okay. Just pausing, I forgot about this part. So we're doing a little bit of not a drinking game so much as we're drinking. I decided since I'm doing these at 9 p.m., it would be a good idea to invite my guests, without peer pressuring them, of course, to have a drink. So I'm drinking something really boring, which is white wine. What are you drinking, Asad?
This is my drink. Because I was once described as a manifestation of the zombie New Left, I made a drink called a zombie. And that's what I'm having now.
Oh, so what is it? If you can reveal it.
It's 4 different types of rum. Grenadine, grapefruit, cinnamon, lime, and absinthe. And it's a very strong drink. So over the course of the evening, things will get more and more theoretically complex.
Oh, it's theoretically complex. Okay.
Exactly.
So it is really a manifestation of you.
Yeah.
So how do you define yourself politically, by the way?
As a communist.
As a communist, okay. So, and do you want to get into the subgenre of communists?
No, there's no subgenre. There's only communism.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, isn't there like Leninism, Maoism?
Yeah, I guess
Stalinism.
The subgenres of Marxism, and I guess you could say that there are different ways that people conceive of themselves as being communists. But to me, communism represents something that is beyond such subgenres, specifications, and identities. Communism is a principle of total egalitarianism and universalism. And so in this sense, communism is resistant to such subdivisions and labels.
They're petty bourgeois divisions.
They're all, any of the subdivisions that people can identify throughout the history of communism, I think they specify different historical manifestations of particular movements, particular ideologies. But insofar as they're communist, they're all instances of social movements which put the existing reality of domination and inequality into question. That's what's communist about them. And so I can recognize across a whole range of different specific ideologies and labels I may disagree with a communist aspect to these movements insofar as they pose that challenge.
So what you talked about how the machine, the establishment kind of killed the Bernie Sanders campaign. And I want to know, let's say it hadn't killed it, although you may think that definitionally it would have been killed, but let's say he had somehow managed to make it. What would what would that have looked like for you? What would the result of that have been? I know that it's hard to predict stuff, but would that have been a co-optation of the left? Would it have been a step closer to communism? Yeah, where would it fall in the mission?
In my view, you can't determine these things in advance or in the abstract. There's no reality that we can evaluate now in which Bernie Sanders had won. Of course, we can look at historical examples of when socialist, social democratic reform movements have entered into the halls of the capitalist state, and they operate with severe constraints. They have to manage the capitalist state and they have to manage the capitalist system, and this means a whole series of compromises. That doesn't mean, once again, that the outcome is preordained or that it's somehow useless to try to mobilize for moments like that. It could be that electing a reform candidate and introducing that kind of change within the state would open up a space for the further development of a more radical movement that could challenge the very structures underlying the state and the economy. That's a possibility. It's also a possibility that reform governments will end up demobilizing their bases. This frequently happens. It happened just recently in Greece. And so, once again, the outcome can't be determined in advance, but it's a question which requires serious thought and vigilance. And I think the key point, which I think wasn't discussed enough among advocates of Sanders and in the kind of excitement that was generated by the unexpected success for a brief period of the Sanders campaign, what was not discussed enough was the necessity for forms of organization that are outside of the state, that can have a continuity past a particular electoral campaign, and that can have an independence from the state and from the state apparatuses, so that they can preserve the continuity of movements and so that they can exert pressure on the state, whoever is in it. And I think, there was a lot of mobilization for doing canvassing and things like that, and that yielded some interesting results. But if you don't have independent organization alongside that, then if, as we had in this case, the state apparatus manages to crush this movement, then you don't have something left past that. Hopefully that isn't the case. Hopefully we still have forms of organization, organizers, activists, and so on, who will be able to push forward. But I think a much more serious effort should have been devoted to building an institutional basis that was outside of the state.
So what could that have looked like?
Well, the classical example that we have in the history of communism is the Soviet, which is the idea of a directly democratic council that exists at workplaces, exists in neighborhoods. It's a kind of organizational form in which everybody is able to participate. Everybody is able to take part in making decisions, that forms of representation are always subjected to the control of the people who are represented. And that kind of direct democracy, it's not enough to actually build a movement that can transform the existing state structures, but it's a necessity. You have to have something like, if you're going to have movements within the state, you have to have movements outside the state that represent a different kind of democracy, a greater kind of democracy than the representative democracy that we have now, than the kind of democracy which is always about delegating your power to someone else. We need to have structures of a different kind of politics. That's the key thing.
I think the irony is that Sanders would agree with you, does agree with you, did agree with you, has kind of articulated that. But I do think it speaks to the power of an individual leader. And there's a lot of kind of like Bernie fan shaming out there. Some of it's, I understand it. Like, I think that some people, you know, I'm sure I fall into this category, were very interested in him as personality and his what he said and what he did. And I mean, for me, I love the, you know, mannerisms, but there is a power in that, right? I mean, as much as kind of communists or socialists or mobilizers and organizers, as much as we like to emphasize mass movements, I mean, both historically and today, there is a real power of an individual, right? And like, whether or not that's ideal or optimal, I think it's kind of undeniable. And so I think maybe like the power, as you wrote at Salon, you wrote a piece saying that despite his, let me just open this, despite his loss, Bernie Sanders' campaign proved that organizing around class interests works. The pundits have it wrong. Bernie Sanders' loss speaks to the continued relevance of socialist ideas, right? Because of course people like to pretend that his not overthrowing the entire democratic political establishment is a sign that socialist ideas are not viable or popular. So it is kind of, I think, was exciting to view someone who was so kind of beloved by so many people, hated by others, but that really, he did really reach people who weren't otherwise very political and who otherwise weren't involved in politics. So I guess my question is, how do you like walk and chew gum at the same time? How do you acknowledge that that a charismatic leader, or in the case of Sanders, an charismatic leader, has real relevance, and also not neglect the mass movements?
There's no question that individuals can have extremely powerful roles in politics. And I mean, what do we mean when we say that? You've pointed to some ways. One sense in which individuals can play a role in politics is through their symbolization. So in this case, it's not so much what specific policies Bernie Sanders advocated, but the fact that he represented this idea of political revolution. He represented this idea of stubborn and persistent opposition to the ruling class for so many people. And he was able to put that in a language that was accessible to people. And, you know, many different people, you know, there are interesting examples, like historians talk, for example, about the way people understood Gandhi during the Indian independence movement. They had all kinds of different ideas of what he symbolized while they were engaged in mass movements of their own. And, you know, it may have had nothing to do with what Gandhi said and so on, but there was a way that Gandhi was a symbol of the popular aspirations and demands that were mobilizing these movements. And so, for example, in immigrant communities in Nevada, Bernie may have represented the legacy of an immigrant who whose family came to the U.S. and was part of that experience. You know, I don't remember what it was in 2016. I think he won the primary in like North Dakota. What did he represent for people there? I mean, it's a totally different thing. And so a lot of people, this is part of what I wrote that article against. A lot of people will say that there is some way that Bernie transparently tapped into like class in a way that's just the same across the board. There's just some objective, like material, like, you know, like physical foundation of class or economics or something like that. But people who believe that Bernie represented them believe that in all kinds of different culturally and symbolically significant ways. That matters in politics. And so when leftists say, like, we just have to get to class consciousness, we just have to talk about economics just, with a total focus on that. I think they miss part of the picture of what happens in politics and potentially undercut their own success, because these forms of cultural representation matter. That's one way in which individuals matter in politics, because they're symbols. Another way that they can matter in politics is that they can make strategic interventions. Certainly throughout history, we have major examples of that. Many revolutions would not have taken place if a certain person wasn't in a certain place at a certain time. That's definitely true. But at the same time, we have to understand that they're not dropped out of the sky from nowhere.
Sure. Of course.
And Bernie Sanders is an example of this. Bernie Sanders comes out of the new left. He comes out of, frankly, the counterculture and all of the various aspects of the 60s and so on that a lot of the supposed new left likes to make fun of, but it mattered. It was very historically important. And there's always a base in these grassroots social movements that make individuals capable of political interventions that have consequences. That doesn't happen out of nowhere. So sure. we can recognize the symbolism of individuals. We can recognize their capacity for political interventions once we've understood also that there has to be a basis in an ongoing and kind of foundational set of practices.
Well, as someone who was once told by someone that my appreciation of Bernie Sanders was tribalist.
Who would say such a thing?
Who would say such a thing? I appreciate that you are recognizing how much he resonated with different communities.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah. Which is, it's like same thing. It's interesting how people can be both culturally specific and universal at the same time. I think part of that has to do with how much authenticity rings true to people and how relatable it makes people, so that you can kind of, you get that he cares about this issue, or you find him relatable. So then you see how his parents' immigration story is related to your parents' immigration story, even though obviously being the son of people who fled Poland, Jews who fled Poland, is different from being the daughter of people who came from Central America or Mexico. But it's both different and similar, and that is kind of the strength. It reminds me of like stand-up comedians who are really popular, not despite of, but both despite of and because of their cultural specificity. Like there's something authentic about it that makes it the comedian able to transcend many, cultural distinctions, I guess.
Well, look, if you don't have differences, you don't have universalism. If everyone was the same, right, it wouldn't be meaningful to describe anything as universal. It's the fact that this specific experience of migration from Europe and then an experience of migration from Latin America can resonate with each other that makes it universal, that makes it possible to speak of something universal.
Yeah.
So this is like, people want to criticize universality as though it was some kind of suppression of difference. No. Universality only exists because we recognize that we are all different and constituted by differences, and that on the basis of that, we can create something else which is common to all of us. Once again, that's communism for me. Right. That's what it means.
Sounds almost dialectical.
I don't know about that. You're getting a little philosophical for me, Katie.
What department were you teaching in at the new school?
Technically philosophy, yes.
Yeah. Interesting. Guys, I want to make sure everyone should tweet out right now, or Facebook out, or Instagram out, or whatever thing you're on that we're having this chat, because I want to make sure that people are graced by Asad's presence. In fact, let me just retweet this right now. Asad, do you want to, you can see the questions, right?
I don't know. How many questions have there been?
Do you see on your screen? Do they come up on the side?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. So I can read you some of the questions. Can I?
Oh, I see. I pressed a button and now I see them.
Oh, great. Okay. So do you want to look?
I won't look at them. You curate them for me.
All right, I'll curate then. I'm going to give you a question to respond to. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where should we start? Let's see. So yeah, I'll give you a chance to address this. So when I asked you about Leninism, Maoism, etc., Garden Gnome said, well, of course there are shared foundational concepts there, but there are clear differences between the application of Maoism, Leninism, etc. So yeah, can you address that? Whether or not you think they're important? I mean, what are the differences? Like, and on a related note, like, what do all of these things mean and look like today?
I don't understand the question.
Well, what does a Maoist think should be done? Or how does a Maoist approach politics versus a Trot versus a Stalinist? Even though you may think that those differences are not that significant.
Okay. These labels are all taking up positions in a history which has passed.
Right.
And I think clinging to these labels is actually a failure to appreciate what the contributions were, even of these specific moments. I mean, when we look back at the 20th century, we see extremely great achievements, which are the great revolutions of the 20th century, the Russian, Chinese, Cuban revolutions, and so on. They overthrew imperialism. They introduced the idea that it was possible to make a transition to a form of society that went beyond capitalism. This is what's really valuable about these episodes in history. Now, to cling to specific lines that people took throughout the course of these revolutions and throughout the complicated processes of the attempt at transition and socialist construction, to cling to specific lines that were taken in the 20th century, I think is fruitless. I don't think that it's very meaningful to try to take up one of those positions now. What's meaningful is to remain faithful in some way to the new possibilities that the revolutions brought about, but not to dogmatically try to adhere to specific positions that were taken up over the course of that history. And so, I mean, you take any position on this, if you criticize Trotskyism, criticize Maoism, you're just going to provoke a backlash from whoever identifies with that label, which will have nothing to do with anything that's politically meaningful today. So I don't really try to make specific statements about these labels. If there are concrete questions about how we interpret that history, about what was what's worth thinking about now, what's worth criticizing, I mean, those concrete questions can be asked, but we can't give general evaluations of these labels, I think, now in any meaningful way.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see, what else is there? Yeah, and then Garden Gnome says, I think understanding the differences provides insight. We'll have to disagree. Have to agree. Oh, that's so cool. We will have to disagree. I'm not a dogmatist or even a communist for that matter.
Okay.
I am curious about, though, what these things mean today. Like, obviously, when someone says they're a Trot, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, but I don't want to
you don't want to fuel that.
Some of my best friends are Trotskyists, so
Oh, so you don't want, if you spoke truthfully about them, then you'd have to offend them?
Well, I'm just gonna close it there because it's like
You're going to take the fifth?
yeah.
All right. If people are just joining, this is Asad Haider, who is the author of Mistaken Identity. He's also a founder of an editor at Viewpoint, and he is a communist. Are you, or have you ever been? I mean, usually it's like pulling teeth historically, but you just say it, you put it out there. Do you think Bernie Sanders helped make communists? Not that he is one, but do you think he kind of shifted everything? He shifted the Overton window in a way that makes people more comfortable calling themselves communists?
Well, he certainly has made it more acceptable to use the term socialist.
Socialist, right?
And
it's a gateway term, though.
Look, the distinction between socialist and communist is this is one of the most unstable distinctions that you have in politics because, for example, if we were in most of Western Europe and we talked about being socialists, that would just be like talking about being a Democrat.
Here, right.
It would just be the left of center position. Whereas in the United States, up until recently, saying that you were a socialist was not that different from saying you were a communist, which was basically saying you were totally outside of what was considered acceptable by mainstream politics in the US. And now the term socialist has been made more acceptable, partly by the Bernie Sanders campaign, partly by a lot of the other organization that's been happening by the TSA and other groups like that. And that's a great thing. And I don't think that in the US context, I don't think that the distinction between socialists and communists is necessarily that meaningful. If you want to get into how I would distinguish them theoretically based on Marxist theory, I would say that it's useful to understand socialism as a transitional category. That is, socialism is a way of understanding the transition between capitalism and communism. It is a form of society which is moving towards the abolition of classes and the abolition of the state. And so in this sense, it is a restricted kind of politics. So, and I think this does, when people are invested in being socialist instead of communists, I do think that this is operative. I think that if people want to reject the position of communism and claim the position of socialism, this generally means that they want a modification of capitalist society which does not proceed all the way to an abolition of classes and an abolition of the state, which is communism. But I don't think that especially most young people who are now the most active politically and are really our source of inspiration for the present, I don't think that this distinction is really active for them. I think that people may call themselves socialists, they may call themselves communists. What's in common is that they reject capitalism and that they believe in a better kind of world, and whatever label they choose to use is okay.
Okay. So you're open.
Mm.
Okay. You're like the least dogmatic communist I've met.
I mean, yeah, there are a lot of there's a lot of dogmatism on the left.
Yeah, there is. I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of dogmatism in the center also. It's just
they're also dogmatic socialists. They're dogmatic social democrats.
Right.
They're the people who want to rule out communism. There are the people who, for the whole 20th century, wanted not just to theoretically rule out communism, but expel actual communists from unions, from political organizations, and so on. And they just destroyed any possibility of meaningful change. I mean, it was the people who wanted to expel the communists from the unions who resulted who caused the bureaucratization and
Defanging.
ultimate disarmament of
Right.
the unions. Yeah, I mean,
like FDR.
well, so this is
Sorry, not sorry.
This is a key thing. This is something to think about when you look at electoral campaigns, when you think about whether it's Bernie or anyone else. Look,
There's only one.
the more radical, the more oppositional elements of any movement are absolutely essential if the center is going to achieve any of its aims. Because there has to be a challenge that's more radical in order for the center to be able to achieve its reforms. And this is a kind of a paradox. It's a paradox of reformism, which is that in order to achieve reforms within the existing reality, you need a threat. You need a threat to the existing powers that forces the ruling class to make concessions. It's only when you have this kind of threat to the stability of the existing order that then those in power will be willing to say, okay, we'll raise the minimum wage. We'll make this concession. And the problem with reformist politics is that you get a kind of a bureaucratic layer which is separate from the grassroots, which is separate from the most radical elements that are pushing for something that goes beyond the system. And they say, okay, we're not going to go that far. We don't want to trash the system totally. We just want to change it in this one little way. But when they just make the demand at that level, they don't have the force that can make the state make those concessions. It's only when that more radical force is there at the grassroots that the bureaucratic reformist layer can say, okay, we will enter into the state and we will make these reforms. And that's a big kind of contradiction and paradox that exists for any reformist movement.
That they're empowering, I just want to make sure I understand. The paradox is that a reformist movement, what? Empowers the center or empowers the more radical pole? Or both? I think I missed part of that.
The paradox is that reformism is the policy of a kind of bureaucratic element, of the kind of like political elite of a movement. That they are prepared to enter into the state to negotiate with the existing powers to make reforms within the existing system. But even to make reforms within the existing system, that's only going to happen if there's a challenge to the whole system, which threatens to disrupt the existing order, which is happening at the grassroots. Right. It's not the bureaucratic, it's not the politicians. It's when people go on strike. It's when people are in the streets. It's when people are disrupting the everyday functioning of the society that then the ruling class is willing to make concessions. And it will make those concessions to the reformist politicians. You could have a huge strike that interferes with the functioning of the society, and then a politician can come in and say, okay, look, here, we will implement this policy, raise the minimum wage, change working conditions, change regulations, whatever. And then the ruling class will say, okay, better to accept this politician's reforms than to allow all of these workers to keep going on strike and keep shutting down society. Okay? But then the problem is that then this bureaucratic layer of politicians, they have their own interests. That they are in the state. They have to think about getting reelected. They may, for example, if we enter into a period of economic crisis as we are in now, it's these politicians that may have to turn around because they're part of the state. They may have to turn around to their base and say, look, we've got to make concessions too. We also have to make compromises. Everybody's making cuts. We also have to accept that we have to make sacrifices. And so they undercut their own grassroots base that made their politics possible. That's happened throughout history. And that's a danger that we have to guard against. Anytime that we the political possibilities in the United States have been so restricted that even someone in a presidential campaign just saying that he's a socialist is like a total rupture. It's like a totally, it's a breakthrough. But what comes after that? We've seen that in Europe. We've seen that in other places, Latin America, many other places. That what comes after that is a whole series of contradictions that we have to be really careful about, because it's possible that once politicians enter into the state, that their reform orientation will demobilize their grassroots base, and that then they will not even be able to implement the reforms that they're aiming for.
Okay. Let's go to another question. Let's see. Okay. Where's the thing? So the Alexander Berkman says, so the Soviet Union was never socialist because workers did not own the means of production.
Okay.
And
Alexander Berkman.
What, do you know him?
Alexander Berkman was Emma Goldman's partner. He was
one of how many, to be fair.
True,
Excuse me if I can't keep up with them. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a famous anarchist. And I just wrote on Twitter earlier today, when I was a teenager, I found Alexander Berkman's book, What is Communist Anarchism? And I read that, and I quoted the line, which made a big impression on me, that he was talking about private property, and he said, your watch belongs to you, but the watch factory belongs to the people. And that very much clarified for me as a young person what it meant to call for the abolition of private property. It didn't mean that you can't have your own thing. It meant that the means of production, the process of production, was owned collectively. That's a big difference. And that was. But anyway, I don't necessarily agree with Alexander Berkman or Emma Goldman on the Soviet Union. I think it's a much more complicated and messy, difficult story. I think, after the great socialist revolutions in the 20th century, you had a number of societies that were in a process of transition, and they did not succeed in making a transition to communism. They did not succeed in transcending capitalist society, but they were in the context of a capitalist world market, and they were dealing with the residues of the previous state and the previous economic forms. And that's a difficult aspect of that history to deal with. It's hard to have both of these thoughts at once, which I think we have to simultaneously recognize that the 20th century revolutions brought about the possibility of a different form of life, but didn't succeed in realizing it. And that's why I differ from all of those isms, all of those, whether it's Trotskyism, Maoism, whatever. I think that they oversimplify this question by saying that, okay, if our guy was in charge, it would have worked. Actually, there were severe material constraints, and there were major problems of how to organize a society that nobody solved successfully in the 20th century. Nobody figured it out. But, the fact that you have failed to figure out how to solve a problem doesn't mean the problem can't be solved. And this is why I refer to Alain Badiou, the French philosopher. I invoke his idea of the communist hypothesis.
Right.
And the idea is,
mathematics,
when you have a hypothesis in mathematics, every failed attempt to prove the hypothesis adds to the knowledge that we have. And it's only by building on the previous failed attempts that we can eventually move towards a successful proof. And so I think that that's a much more productive way to think about the history of the 20th century revolutions.
Question from Lawrence Dunn. Have been emotional today reading some of what Vincent Levins has been writing about how frighteningly easy the Communist Party in Indonesia was crushed in 1965, and that we might be living in a world profoundly shaped by anti-communism. Do you have any specific thoughts about this? And how well the non-aligned movements of the Third World were wiped away from our collective memory? I was going to ask the same thing.
I don't have enough knowledge about Indonesia to comment on that specifically. I think that this is an interesting point about the non-aligned movements. I think this is another very important part of the history of the 20th century in terms of emancipatory politics. You know, I've described communism in a way that equates it with a more general conception of human emancipation. I don't tie it to a specific kind of social system because we don't know yet what a kind of emancipated society would look like, how it would be structured. I think that drawing up blueprints in advance would be a mistake. So I think that it's in the movements which said that we can rebel against domination, we can rebel against inequality, and we can call for a society to be organized differently, that I identify that as the communist aspect of those movements, which is equivalent to saying that they were a form of emancipatory politics. And so I view anti-imperialism as a form of emancipatory politics with a communist content. Nevertheless, we also have to recognize that just as state socialism failed to elaborate a different form of life, anti-imperialism in the 20th century also ran up against very important limits. The revolt against imperialism often ended up being channeled into new kinds of national sovereignty, new forms of the nation state, various forms of national sovereignty which suppressed class differences within nations, within the oppressed nations, and failed to produce a new kind of emancipation that could go beyond those limits. And so I think that in the way that I've been talking about state socialism as or of the socialist revolutions as the opening up of a possibility, but also the closure of that possibility, I think that these anti-imperialist movements can also be viewed in that way. By challenging imperialism, they advanced principles that were consistent with the communist hypothesis, but they also were not able to overcome the existing reality.
Sorry, what did you say? My producer Nick was saying something to me. What do you mean? Comment in the actual room? Okay. Oh, like in the chat? It must sound like I have an imaginary friend right now.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Sorry about that. Let's see. Sam L. Okay, I'm going to answer a question from Sam L. Let's see. Well, I see some comments from Sam L, which I like that he calls himself a Halperian. Sam, where's your question, though? Well, you have a comment. Labeling yourself as anything other than a progressive can be dangerous here in Miami. Too many people here from socialist countries. Yeah. Miamians are problematic. I think if you're just like I think you can get into a lot of trouble there.
We just have to keep pushing until they change their minds or their children change their minds. There's no way around it.
Which is happening. It's actually interesting. There's a kind of Cuban American. I always think that there's a parallel between Cuban Americans and Jews, in that, you know, the older generation is much more reactionary, and the younger generations, you know, a lot of, it was like, who was it? Frank Luntz even did a poll that looked at younger Jews who were much less attached, obviously, not surprisingly, to the existence of Israel than their parents were. And you see that in I was going to say in Florida, mostly in Florida, but wherever you find, I guess, Cuban Americans, the younger, sorry to stereotype you guys, the younger people don't care about Castro the way that their parents did. And there really is a generational divide, but it's interesting because both of those communities are very pandered to. And I say that as someone who belongs to one of those communities. I'll let you figure out which one. I think I could pass as either. I have been told people have thought I was Cuban. Did you know that, Asad?
I didn't know that.
It's true. True story. Do you, South Florida, Broward DSA is on the up and up. There you go. Let's see. I actually once was in Florida, and I went to visit this Domino Park. Domino Park, is that what it's called? It's where a bunch of old Cubans play dominoes. And this guy who was a total reactionary, who was like praising Pinochet and Franco, said that he visited his daughter in Cuba. And it was like, you could hear a pin drop for a couple of seconds, and then people started yelling and screaming and attacking him. And again, this guy was not a radical at all. He was a Pinochetista or whatever. But just the fact that he visited his daughter in Cuba made him a persona non grata. And then the guy, there was like a security guard at this Domino's Park, whatever it's called. And he blew his whistle and pointed to a sign. And it's like, it said in Spanish, like, no spitting, no littering, no yelling. So that was obviously a thing. Even among right-wing reactionary Cubans, there was a lot of tension. Let's see. Any other questions? Anything that you wanted to ask me about, Asad? Or you want me to ask you about? How you're dealing with how you are dealing with COVID, with the pandemic? Not you health-wise, but living under lockdown.
You know, I'm handling it. I'm pretty lucky to have had at least up through the next month an income, and I'm healthy, so you know, I'm lucky in this regard. But I don't know. I mean, I think we have a lot of surprises in store.
Right.
I think that we're not going to see a linear development towards things settling down. I mean, we're going to see lots of waves and spikes of things getting fucked up. So I think we have to be prepared for that. How are you doing, Katie?
I'm good. I feel very kind of disconnected. I kind of feel like I was at Wesleyan when 9/11 happened, and I don't really feel like it happened to my city. You know, I'm born and raised and still lived in up until this point, New York, but it could have been like Indiana where it had happened. I just felt totally, really important comment from Nicholas Vater. Asad's hair looks nice, very long and shaggy.
Friend of mine.
Oh, friend of yours, friend of the show indirectly. Okay.
And he can look forward to my hair getting even shaggier. As we go through many months without haircuts.
Okay. You could give yourself a haircut probably, or you could get a hazmat suit.
No, that's never gone well anytime, you know.
All right. Yeah. Someone just asked, Nick, can you help me find a question from the Mark O'Brien? Because apparently he's asked some questions and I can't find them. Is that something you can do? Thank you very much. Everyone say hi to Nick Palm. Remember him from last night and other times? Asad, you met Nick.
Which one?
Nick Palm. When we were setting up, I was testing my setup in my apartment.
Oh, yeah.
The Skype setup, yeah.
Yeah.
Asad was kind enough to Skype with me to test the setup that I had. Do you have any books to recommend besides your own, obviously?
I can recommend 1,000 books. It depends on what you want to read about. Go ahead and write in the comments what you want to read about, and I'll recommend books.
Okay. Book questioner. Write in the comments what you want to read about. But let's just do some free association before that happens. Book that you recommend. Go. What's the first thing?
I just referred to Badiou's Communist Hypothesis. So the book, The Communist Hypothesis,
right.
It's a great book.
Yeah, I never knew that Erica was such a Renaissance woman. That's a really bad and unintelligible joke about that last name, Erica Badu.
Yeah,
I know it's spelled
it's a
differently.
different. Yeah.
I know.
But it's a really, that's a pretty accessible, really good book. I will have another article, I think, tomorrow on Salon, which has some relation to that, which has some relation to the memory of May 68, the Great Revolt of May 68 in France. There's an essay in there by Badiou, which is a really beautiful piece remembering that. And I will have something invoking that in response to Mitchell Abador's recent piece in the New York Times, which was kind of tut-tut to the young socialists who aren't enthusiastic about Joe Biden.
What's not to be enthusiastic about? He's
extremely
entertaining.
Yeah,
Real talk, he is entertaining. Unintentionally. He's kind of hilarious.
Okay, so I looked at the comments. I see some questions about specific books on the history of socialist countries. I would recommend on the Soviet Union, I would recommend Sheila Fitzpatrick's book on the Russian Revolution, and I would recommend pairing that with Lars Lee's biography of Lenin, the short book. And I would recommend Rebecca Carl's book about Mao and the Chinese Revolution. It's a great book. What are the other questions?
Let's see. Anything else?
The title of my book is Mistaken Identity.
I'll put a link to that.
Yeah.
Someone, Grant Gardner wanted something you feel is foundational to you personally. Malcolm X, isn't that true?
That's a good point. Today is his birthday. And yeah, the autobiography of Malcolm X was very pivotal for me personally when I read it as a teenager. And at the time, I also read the Communist Manifesto. I also read Huey P. Newton's autobiography, Revolutionary Suicide. I read Angela Davis's autobiography. I like reading biographies and autobiographies.
Yeah, those are really actually a fun way to access.
Yeah, someone just asked about the author of the Lenin book. That was Lars Lee, L-I-H. He has a much longer book called Lenin Rediscovered, which is about Lenin's What Is to Be Done. I think I don't really agree with a lot of his claims, but I think that
it's what is not to be done. Am I right?
Yeah, Lenin Critical Lives. That's right. That I think is it's shorter, and the claims are more restricted. It's more specific to being a biography of Lenin. So I think it's a really good corrective. I think that the various works of Louis Althusser have been very influential for me personally. If you look at 4 Marx and reading Capital, the essay in 4 Marx called Contradiction and Overdetermination is, to me, one of the most, it's a great essay on Lenin and one of the most interesting ways to think about politics. Once again, I think Badiou's works are very important. The Communist Hypothesis and The Rebirth of History are 2 very accessible political interventions right now. And as I said, on these revolutionary histories, Sheila Fitzpatrick and Rebecca Carl are both really serious historians. But yeah, then once again, it becomes a question of what specifically you want to read about, because there's so many angles to think about here.
I'd recommend some novels by Nora Eisenberg, Nora
Absolutely.
Eisenberg. Nora Eisenberg happens to be my mom, but she's written some really wonderful novels and historical fiction. The War at Home is like fictionalized memoirs about growing up in the Bronx and being raised by not so much communist parents, but fellow travelers. Nora Eisenberg, that's the name of my mom. Thank you, whoever did that. When You Come Home is about war. My mom wrote about Gulf War syndrome before it was cool, back when people thought it was a conspiracy, but it's not. Conspiracy theory, I mean. And then she wrote Just the Way You Want Me, which is historical fiction set during the McCarthy era. So those are my plugs. Are you working on another book?
Right now I'm figuring out what I'm going to write next, because honestly, it's really, there are ideas, and then there's like the form.
Autobiography.
There's the form in which you have to articulate ideas in order to pay your rent. And
right.
So one option is to write academic books if you're going to be an academic, and then the other option is to write more popular books that will be bought by the general public if you're not going to be an academic. And I have to determine yet whether the academy will accept me. I don't know yet.
Are you too out there? Are you too much of a threat?
I don't know if I'm a threat, but maybe I'm just an oddity. I'm not. My publication record is too political, and so maybe some,
Sounds like you should be in the sociology department.
I don't know about that. Sociology tends to be much more scientific, like quantitative and so on.
Well, it depends.
I have no competence in that area. But it has yet to be determined what genre of book I have to write. So, yeah.
Anyone have feedback? What would you like to see from Asad? Maybe some science fiction? Do you like science fiction, Asad?
Yeah.
I don't, but I really respect it.
Yeah, I like Philip K. Dick.
Nice.
I'm looking at my roommate's books on the shelf here. There's a number of good science fiction books,
Well, you just got a great blurb.
Oh, yeah.
Show this to the Academy.
All right.
Asad presents a unique viewpoint, given what I've seen here.
All right.
Was that a pun? Because he's the founder of Viewpoint magazine?
No doubt it was.
Yeah. So many angles to think about. That's another funny one. God, I got to show these to my dad. He's really into puns. What was the Lenin Overdetermination essay? I just missed the name and author as I was coming into the room. Someone said.
Contradiction and Overdetermination by Louis Althusser.
Oh, yeah, Althusser. He's good. Of the oft-cited, what is it? Ideological state apparatus.
Ideology and Ideological State Apparatuses is his most widely read essay. Yes.
ISA.
Yes.
I had a great professor at Wesleyan who taught us that.
Oh yeah, that's good. I mean that that's the most widely read, but the others are good too. So
They're
people should
gems.
read the other ones. Yeah.
Well, this is the gateway book.
Yeah.
What do you think of Jay? Hold on. Can you see
Yeah,
this?
I don't have an opinion that I need to give on that.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. We're gonna have to do a Patreon only where you spill the tea, where you throw shade. What do you think of Nancy Pelosi fat shaming Donald Trump?
I think
Did you see that?
it's a really bad strategy, isn't it?
I think so.
It's really bonkers. I don't get it.
I mean, I just think Democrats need to not try to beat Trump by mocking him. It's just such a
No, because
failed strategy.
Trump is really good at this.
He's so good at this.
Trump is like really funny and an effective bully.
Yeah, he's like a
And
rapper. He's very good on
yeah,
his feet. He would like definitely win, rap battles. Like no question. And then these guys just come off as like moms or grandparents who are trying to enter a rap battle. You know what I mean?
yeah, so that was a mistake, and it once again it just totally. It's like her talking about her fancy ice cream and so
Yeah.
on. I mean,
Yeah.
she's just like totally.
We just restocked.
Yeah.
We just restocked because for the ice cream. She also calls it ice cream, not ice cream, but ice cream. Yeah.
Right. Who does that?
What are the other names that they come up with? Or when she was like, "I'm Catholic. I don't hate. I don't hate." Well, is it Catholic to body shame, Nancy?
Yeah. Geez. Yeah.
I mean, what I am happy about this is that it gives Trump an occasion to be woke Trump. Trump every now and then is very woke. Sometimes totally, I mean, almost always either unintentionally or totally opportunistically. I remember at the RNC, he actually said like, he gave a shout out to the LGBTQ people. And what was amazing is that Q wasn't in the teleprompter. My friend was there and saw that Q wasn't in the teleprompter, but he's that woke that he knew about queer. He knew about, the Q. And he said, like, he's like, and that's why I'm going to protect them from a dangerous foreign ideology. So he basically grounded his Islamophobia in, being woke on LGBTQ rights. Then he's also, there's like the Chomskyan Trump, where he basically says what Chomsky would say, but in a not in a negative way. So remember, he was like, said he wasn't going to do anything to Saudi Arabia because they bought a bunch of weapons from us, which is like what Chomsky would say, but that would be a critique. Trump is just this big unmasker. But yeah, they've come up with some good names. Don the Con, Cheeto Mussolini. Yeah, exactly. Lawrence Dunn says was pretty woke about terrible U.S. foreign policy. Yeah, that's true. I had okay, Katie, give me an assist. I had no idea he founded Viewpoint. Oh, I gave you an assist. Got it. He was saying that was an unintentional
one of the
pun.
founders. There were two founders. The other was Salar Mohandesi, and you can read a recent article by him if you go to Viewpoint.
Oh, great.
A recent article by him about contemporary crisis and what kind of crises we're living through.
Do you think there's going to be a general strike?
No, I don't see any sign of that right now. I mean, I think my honest impression right now is that we are still at a state of too much confusion to know how to act politically going forward. I mean, there are such limitations imposed on what we have previously conceived of as political action. I mean, we can't be in the same space together in mass numbers. And, a general strike obviously doesn't have to mean that people are like demonstrating on the streets. It just means you don't work. But at the same time, it's hard to organize at that level without being able to gather.
Right.
And I don't know how we're going to adapt to this situation. I don't think anyone's come up with the answer yet. This is really hard. This is a really challenging scenario for us. I think we can admit that.
Right. It does seem like there's a lot of potential, but it's also extremely daunting. But it does, in some ways, it's like, oh, wow, a general strike. It's in some ways, it's a lot easier than in the past to refuse to go to work.
I think there are elements of that are true. And there are some aspects of the crisis which lead, like, it seems like they lead automatically to doing different kinds of political action. Like, it seems like we have an automatic idea that many of us shouldn't go to work, or that we should do forms of mutual aid or rent strikes or whatever. But I think that even all that stuff, it doesn't really happen in an organized way. It doesn't happen in like a sustained way that is like a political challenge, unless you have that little something extra that isn't just about reacting to the crisis, but about putting forward new political principles, putting forward affirmative political principles, saying like, not just that we're against this, but that we're for a different kind of world. And until you have an organized expression of that, which says that we believe in a different form of life, and that we're going to act politically in order to implement that you have to have that. And it's not enough just to react to the crisis. You have to have this positive aspect too.
Right. Although never underestimate the power of righteous anger. I gotta say, very mobilizing. Outrage can be very inspiring.
Absolutely. Outrage and then commitment. You need both.
To an alternative, right. Yeah.
You need both.
Exactly. And outrage about the right things, not outrage about Trump, about Michael Flynn talking to the Russian ambassador. I mean, if you want to have outrage about that, have outrage.
That's not real outrage. That's manufactured outrage. That's not outrage.
I actually think it's outrage, but it's extremely privileged outrage. It's a decorum-based outrage.
It's not outrage at injustice.
No, not at all. Right.
It's just, like I said, it's a manufactured outrage at particular positions within the very narrow political constraints that we have. It's not real.
I mean, it also happens to be of all the things that Trump does and his associates do, it's like the least important thing. It's both like morally empty and politically totally insignificant.
Because obviously the worst things that Trump does are the same things that Democrats do.
Right.
And that you should be outraged at them in the way that you would be outraged if someone else was in charge.
Right.
And so if you're just outraged because of his personal style, that's not real. That's not political.
Yeah, it really isn't. And it just helps him. All of this stuff just helps him. I really am excited. Does anyone know how he responded to the Nancy Pelosi thing? I didn't see it yet, but I'm excited to see what he does. By the way, I want to take this moment to encourage people to join the Patreon for the Katie Halper Show, which is patreon.com/the Katie Halper Show. Also, follow Asad on Twitter. His Twitter is generalities.
Yeah, generality 3.
Generality.
Roman numeral 3.
Lowercase. because the Roman numeral could be uppercase I. I offended
Yeah, but
him.
I don't think it's case sensitive.
I think it is. Twitter? Oh, that's a good question.
There's a Y.
Where? Oh, okay.
Is
Also, make sure that you buy mistaken identity. And guys, someone said that they were upset that wait, how do you spell your Twitter name again? Here, I'm just gonna put it in. Hold on.
the word generality with Y and
Right.
then 3 I's, Roman numeral 3.
Hold on 1 second. Here, I'm gonna just copy it. I'm gonna copy it.
Another.
Make sure you screenshot
it's a
Asad's
reference.
tweets because he
No, don't say that. Don't say that. No. The I'm
no, yeah, keep going.
Okay.
Just scrolling your thing.
Generality 3, it's a reference to Althusser, actually, to his conception of, that's right, it's on the screen now, it's correct. His conception of knowledge in the Marxist theory of knowledge, which is that you have generality 1, which is like the data and sense perception and symbols that you get that like are just out there that you perceive. And then you have generality 2, which is the work that you do on the data. It's like a process that you undergo in order to produce new knowledge. And the new knowledge is generality 3. So that's what I invoked for that. Because, like Asad Haider was taken, so I just.
What was your thing before? What was it before?
I don't know. I don't remember.
You don't remember?
What were you talking? What was
your Twitter handle from before?
Oh yeah, it was another Althusser thing. It was El Infinito Adios.
What was it?
El Infinito Adios.
Yeah. What's that?
It's just a book by an Argentinian Marxist theorist about Althusser. Althusser, the Infinite Goodbye.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just sitting on my desk when I started the account, so I just put it.
Right. Yeah.
I picked up the book just to like learn Spanish by just reading it.
How'd that go? ¿Cómo te fue?
Well, I didn't follow through on it, but it's there for me to pick up when next time.
Why don't you take advantage of this to learn Spanish?
Well, this is a great tragedy right now that I'm separated from my books, from my physical books, because they're at my mother's house. So I'm having to read a lot on the computer.
That's not as good, right?
No, it really gets old looking at the screen.
Do you not have any books that don't, or you and your roommate like?
No, I have like maybe 30 books sitting here, but
But you've read them already, or?
No, I haven't read them. But like you do research projects and you have to read specific books. It's not just the random 30 that you brought with you.
Right. Got it. Yeah.
How long are we going?
We can end now.
Okay. Well,
is that what you were?
No, well, I have to go to the bathroom.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, I can come back, but it's like whatever you want.
Well, let's have why don't you go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
I'll talk to the audience a little bit, and then we can have a wrap up with where you're not feeling any pressure.
Okay. Should I get another drink too?
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right, I should do that too. Okay, we're gonna mute him so that. Oh no, I wanted to do that thing like a Naked Gun when they hear Frank Dribbin. Frank Dribbin, that's his name, peeing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Thank you. You guys, Fred Willard died. Did you know that? Very sad. His best movie, obviously, was Waiting for Guffman. Very underrated. What was I going to say? Guys, you got to subscribe to this channel on YouTube. So take a few minutes to do that. You also should hit the like button on this channel and on this thing. So the subscribe thing, you subscribe and like hit this ding thing. There's like a bell on the top right. What else? Nick, anything else I should remind them about? Hit the like button and subscribe. Smash the like button. Yeah, Fred Willard was 86 or 85, much older than I thought he was. Not quite Kurt Loder age. You know, I have this other podcast called Useful Idiots with Matt Taibbi, and we think that Kurt Loder, because he just turned 75 last week, we think, or the week before, we think that he's some kind of ageless wonder. Yeah. Also, guys, I'm releasing my interview with Max Blumenthal. If some of you were here last night, you saw it, but I'm sure some of you weren't. And also, I want to make sure that the Max episode is seen by people who don't come to the live stream. And you know what else I released today? I see some people asking about Jen Perelman and Shahid Buttar. I'll ask Asad about them, though I don't think I'm not sure he's that excited about them or knows about them. But I released part 1 of my Jen Perelman interview, which is pretty good and very good, I would say. And then tomorrow, well, the Max episode isn't up yet, so wait for the Max episode. But it's very good. Tonight, I'm going to put up part 2 of my Jen Perelman interview. It's interesting. She says some really funny, good things about Nancy Pelosi and about Russia. She makes this really good point about how, what does she say? She has infinitely more in common with, infinitely more in common with a mom in Russia than she does a mom in Beverly Hills. So, yeah, that's going to come out tonight or tomorrow. What else? Oh, cool. Yeah. So Sam L, who showed the Jen interview to his dad, right? Because you're Floridian. Tell your dad that he gets to look forward to part 2. Kurt Loder does have shit politics. I believe he's a libertarian, but that doesn't mean he's not ageless. In fact, you guys should watch the YouTube video that we did, where Matt and I go over where he's been seen in history. Let me actually find that link. It's pretty funny. 1 second. Okay, let's see where that thing is. Hold on 1 second. Me and Matt Taibbi. Where's that one? Let's see. Oh, you see Matt. Okay, let's see. Oh, here it is. This is pretty funny. This is pretty funny. Where am I? I like this platform, by the way. StreamYard. So there you can watch us finding no, Loder's alive. Loder didn't die. I know the evil lives so long, like David Rockefeller. How long did he live? Ridiculous. And I'll show you my my Jen interview. Let's see. It's really funny at the end of the video where we try to determine whether Kurt Loder is in a cave painting. Guys, I don't see that many new subscribes. So that's problematic. Just kidding. Let me just put in my latest video, the Jen Perelman one, which is here. This is a very cool thing. There you go. Yeah, so this is the one with me and Matt. This is the one with just me and Jen. How is it easy to subscribe to a channel? Anyone have any questions just for me? I saw that act.tv interview. Yeah, Johan Hari's great. I've had him on my own podcast also. So this is like a new thing I'm doing, which is kind of like a live stream that I turn into videos and podcasts. You want to hear some future guests that I'm going to have on? Well, I'll tell you who they are. They are Jimmy Dore, Marianne Williams. Who else? Crystal Ball, Brianna Joy Gray, David Sirota, Rebecca Nagel, Anya Parampel. Yeah. If anyone has any other suggestions, Rebecca Nagel, Nagle, who hosts this podcast, a podcast called This Land, which is crooked media, but I'm so supportive of her work that I'll have her on anyway. Crooked Media, of course, is the host of Pod Save America.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, you're back. What are you drinking now? Another zombie? No, it looks different. What's this? Hold on. What's that?
I was dispensing bitters into a drink, and then the top fell off, and so it just dumped a whole bunch of bitters into the glass, and so I had to come up with a drink that was based on a huge quantity of bitters. And one such drink is called the Trinidad Sour. Yeah.
What about the Tobago Sour? Tobago always gets left out.
Yeah,
really
up. I don't know what drink that would be, but
would be a really underrated, overlooked drink, I'm sure. That's funny, actually.
It's a very good drink, though.
I poured too much salt into some olive oil, and I faced a similar thing where I had to I didn't want to waste the olive oil, but then I wound up pouring way too much olive oil to have it be edible.
What did you do with it?
Poured a lot of olive oil into it, so the salt to olive oil ratio was lower, and dunked in the best bread I've ever had. Yeah, I'll try to have Naomi Klein on also. Do not look at the latest comment. Gabor Mate, Aaron's dad, would be a great guest. He does amazing work on addiction, trauma, and our social environment. Oh, don't I know that? I know that all too well, but yeah, maybe I will. I had Aaron on the show the other night. No. Aaron on the show on Useful Idiots, but I'm going to have Aaron on also. What else? There's an amazing Italian bread. I'm not really a bread person. That's not my carb weakness. I'm more pasta, but my Lord, is this good Italian bread. It is so good. It's almost like challah.
Well, yesterday I got a baguette and I ate all of it. I just ate all of it yesterday. That's what happened. That's why I'm not making bread. Everybody's baking bread.
Yeah.
If I did that, I would eat a loaf of bread every day.
You'd become morbidly obese.
Like Trump. Yeah.
You join the ranks of Donald Trump.
Nancy Pelosi would be denouncing me.
Yeah, she would be. Yeah. I mean, I'm a little upset that she seems to not. I don't know if she's someone who can eat whatever she wants, or her ice cream is performative. Sometimes really thin girls wear shirts that say fries before guys.
Oh yeah.
It's okay, well, I don't know. Either you don't eat that much or you do and you have a really good metabolism. But if Nancy eats as much ice cream and looks the way she does, then she has metabolic privilege. Ooh, yes, that's what I'm going to call her out on, metabolic privilege.
I haven't had ice cream in some time.
Ice cream, exactly. You haven't? Yeah, me.
It's pretty sad.
Oh, well, you know what I have here?
What?
Not to seem like Nancy Pelosi who likes chocolate, but I got this.
Oh yeah.
This was actually because I wanted to make sure I stayed up late. I mean, I stayed woke, stayed alert. As Chris Cuomo said about Joe Biden during one of the debates, this is far and away his best debate. He was alert the entire time.
I have the endangered species chocolate. That's what they
With like a
had.
panda?
That's what they had at CVS.
What does it look like?
I don't know. It's like a it's like a black wrapper.
So
Oh.
not M&M. Thank you.
Now Nick Waters asking for my top 3 metal bands.
Oh, come on. You didn't laugh at my thing? I thought that was really funny.
No, I didn't even pay attention.
You said it's a black wrapper, and I said, so not M&M.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on. It's funny.
Okay.
Fine,
Okay.
your top 3 metal bands.
Black Sabbath. For sure. Sleep.
Thank you, Sam Alford.
Diamond Head.
Is that real? Did you just make that name up?
No.
Diamond Head? You like looked off to your side, came back with Diamond Head.
It was just a spontaneous choice. I don't know if I'd defend it if I thought about it more, but
I don't even know Diamond Head. This is the best part of the show, I think, when my guests and I just talk about more mundane things. What's your favorite dessert?
Ice cream.
What kind? What flavor? This is important.
I can't, it depends on the mood that day. You can't just decide it in advance.
You have to have some freeway. Like you have to have some lane, something that you like. I mean, I would never, I guess strawberry can be good. I almost had to quit Useful Idiots because one of Matt Taibbi's favorite ice creams is strawberry.
I'm usually not that into fruit flavors.
Yeah. So that leaves
more chocolate-oriented flavors. Yeah. Peanut butter is a good element.
Yeah. You know what's so good? Chubby Hubby.
Chubby Hubby is a great flavor.
It's so good. I'm like smiling just thinking about it. Yeah. And think of what a feat it is that it overcomes that branding problem.
Right. Yeah. That is telling you what will become of you.
Yeah. And they might as well call it morbidly obese. Ben and Jerry's should make a Trump flavor. Although I think they make flavors of people they like.
Okay. Great story from the campaign thing was when Soviet delegation visits Vermont and Bernie Sanders takes them on a tour of Ben and Jerry's. Amazing.
I mean, amazing, but it's also kind of like, it also seems like it's out of some Cold War propaganda guide. Like we'll win them over to our sweets. Ice cream? Yeah. Ice cream, pistachio. What else?
Pistachio is always an outstanding flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mint chocolate chip.
Dessert.
Mint chocolate chip.
Mint chocolate cookie is the Ben and Jerry's.
The Ben and Jerry's one. That's good too, right? I'm not really into vanilla stuff, but I do really like vanilla Swiss almond, which is a Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah, Haagen-Dazs is good too. It's
just mood. Almonds, some fudge, and
mood.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Do you eat some of it and put it back? Do you put it in a bowl or what?
Oh, how I eat my ice cream?
Yeah.
I do a bowl because I could do the thing.
It's revisionist.
What's revisionist?
To put ice cream into a bowl, you have to eat the whole pint.
Revisionist, like reformist or cowardly or what?
If you truly appreciate ice
cream, to
be
part of the ice cream community, right?
You have to eat the whole pint in one sitting.
Well, what's the size that's bigger than that? A quart?
A gallon?
A gallon?
Quart is next.
Quart? The next one, yeah. I have a friend who just sat and ate. Capitalism snuck into the USSR via the Ben Jerry's factory, probably. Who just would eat right out of the thing.
Yeah, of course. And then you eat it till it's done.
I do have, some people say that they don't get full on sushi. I do get full on sushi.
Yeah.
I think the rice is filling. But I got to admit, I have a nearly, I mean, I think like a whole, it's hard. I have a lot of space when it comes to ice cream and pizza.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what happens. I don't know if it's the addictive quality of the fat and the salt.
It's a different compartment.
It is a different compartment. And it is a very cavernous compartment.
I haven't had pizza in a while either.
It's so good. We had some cauliflower crust pizza. It was okay. Good pizza is so good.
That's okay. I had some. They made it more cauliflowery.
The cauliflower dough? You mean there's like a range?
Yeah. It got more cauliflower. It got more intense in its cauliflower character. It was a little more. It was a little more difficult.
Cauliflowerication.
My favorite movie is Tout va bien by Jean-Luc Godard, or Videodrome by David Cronenberg.
My favorite movie, one of them is Waiting for Guffman.
Oh yeah, you just had the. What
about Love Guru?
That movie is called Partner.
Oh, it's called Partner. Okay.
Yeah. Bollywood movie, but for a good Bollywood movie, I mean, Sholay is the great Indian movie.
Peck on the Cheek is also good, but it's Sri Lankan.
Vyasa is an old Indian movie. It's very good, sort of socialist film.
You like Sajid Ray?
I don't know him as well because it's, like I know the Hindi movies because of they were linguistically accessible. But Bengali movies I don't know as well.
My dad really loves him.
Yeah. I know his film The Chess Players. That I remember watching.
Yeah, I think that Waiting for Guffman is it's probably the best Christopher Guest movie. You know what else is really good? Entenmann's chocolate Entenmann's. Like, it's not really my style. It's not my type, but they're really good.
Like little donuts?
Yeah, the little minis. The minis are good because it's a good ratio of chocolate outside to the vanilla inside. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had pizza in a while. This bread is good. My friend is coming over. He's Italian American, and he's bringing over a cannoli caulk gun and cannoli shells.
What did you just say?
Caulk gun? Isn't that what it's called? Caulk? Isn't that what it's called?
What are you talking
about? What is it called? It's a caulk gun, right?
For cannoli.
Yeah, he's bringing over, and I think it's so funny because he's Italian, but he's coming over. He lives near here where my parents are, and he's bringing over the cannoli shells and the caulk gun, because if you leave them in too long, the shells get soggy. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah. What else? I'm looking forward to those. Cannolis are good. What else? A cheesecake. I didn't really like them usually, but I can enjoy them now. What else do we like? Pecan pie is good. Cherry pie is like the best pie though. One of the best.
My brother's the person you want to talk about pies. He makes all kinds of pies.
All right, guys. I didn't want to make you feel less than, but since you brought him up, you guys may know that Asad's brother is, guess who it is, guys? See if you can figure it out from the last name. Let's see if anyone writes in the comments. What is Asad's brother's name? And it's not Bashir. Oh, Flan. I thought someone was saying that was the name. Flan Haider. Asad is the better hater, people. Lawrence Dunn says that. Okay, but who's the other hater? No clue? All right. No one? No one knows? Bill Hader. That's funny. All right. I can't believe none of you could figure it out. He's been on the show before. Shuja Hader. Shuja Hader. I've had a pecan pie that Shuja baked. I was actually trying to be healthy and I was doing a cleanse, and then that entered into the equation and it threw me off.
He's
what?
He's an excellent baker, far superior to me in baking.
So are you claiming you're better at cooking or something?
I wouldn't say I'm better than him, but I'm more comfortable cooking than baking, for sure. I mean,
right.
It's more of the improvisational quality of cooking that's suitable for me, whereas baking requires a lot of like precision.
Right.
Yeah, it's more mathematical.
And Shuja's the more mathematical of the brothers.
I think he has a greater mathematical aptitude than me, yes.
What was your what did you go to school for?
Literature,
right. What a bunch of haters, I know. Anything else you guys want to know? This is my maybe I should have a my show should start off with people talking about why they like their drink and their favorite dessert.
Yeah.
I have some ice cream bars, actually. Oh my God, I should totally film myself talking about my ice cream bars. Right? Shuja is a country music fan. He is a country music fan. Shuja is also a musician himself.
I am too, yeah.
You're not a musician, right?
No, not really, no. But I'm also a country music fan.
Do you play the spoons? That would be good.
No.
Oh, okay.
Don't play anything.
My dad saw Tammy Wynette. Actually, she's behind me here.
Oh, that's
here
cool.
She is.
Yeah, she's good. Wait, what's the album? What's
what?
The album? Oh, it's just a portrait of her?
It's the 25th anniversary collection.
That's great. Wait, what is it? What is the title? Tears of Fire?
Yeah.
Is that it?
And look at this. Look. Wait, it's hard. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. Yes, I like that. Yeah.
She looks very like Soviet in that, like a 1980s.
It's like socialist realism.
Yeah. Or a Bond villain.
Yeah.
One of the two. Tears of Fire. Yeah. All right. Statuesque, very much. Yeah, what a gown, indeed. Your mom gets mistaken for her, so you can't listen to her music? That's not fair. I'm offended for Tammy and for your mom. Someone said that they couldn't listen to me because I reminded them of their annoying aunt's voice.
Lately, some of the music I listen to most often has been Miranda Lambert.
Well, you know, it's funny.
That's what somebody just brought up in the comment. But I especially like the super group, the Pistolannis. I listen to them a lot.
So Miranda Lambert, the reason I know who she is because I've interviewed Juanita Broaddrick a few times, and she's very funny. Juanita Broaddrick, by the way. Juanita Broaddrick is someone who accused Bill Clinton of rape. It occurred in the 70s, and she talked about in the 90s. But she also has a very good sense of humor, and she remember they like mailed Hillary Clinton and George Soros and some other people like pipe bombs or something. You remember this? Anyone remember this? Asad, do you remember this? Is this Asad's either frozen or reading something? Or both? Anyway, Juanita tweeted when that happened. Juanita tweeted, what are you laughing at? Oh, Tammy Wynette, A Study in Socialist Realism will be the title of your next book, Asad. Who is this Nicholas guy? Should I have him on the show?
Yes. Your next guest should definitely be Nick. He's a very important figure. You should definitely have him on your show.
Cool.
So next show should be Nick Water.
All right. Vater.
And yeah, probably do it tomorrow.
Bring him on now.
He doesn't need a lot of time to prepare, so just bring him on.
Yeah. So anyway, when they sent pipe bombs to Hillary Clinton, George Soros, Juanita Broderick tweeted, I was gardening at the time.
Okay.
It was really funny, I have to admit. But why did I bring her up? What were we doing? Oh, Juanita Broderick, when she told there's a secret recording of her. These people came to her house, and they were detectives, and they asked her about if it was true that Bill Clinton had raped her, and she said, I'm not going to talk about it. It was too awful. If you subpoena me, I won't say it. I'll deny it. And those people turned out to be the parents of Miranda Lambert.
Wow.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Who is Nicholas Vater?
He's a very important theorist.
Of what?
Of Tammy Wynette and
social realism.
Yeah.
Wait, now I have to refill my drink.
Okay.
So you have to person the ship. This is fun.
All right. It's just wine. There she goes. I'm not a radio personality, so I can't really entertain you while she's getting her drink.
Okay, I'm about to commit heresy.
How so?
I'm about to do something very cognitive. If I could hire a bouncer, I would make you get bounced. Hold on. Oh, okay. So here's what I'm gonna. You know what this is?
What? It looks like wine.
It's Lambrusco.
Okay.
Have you ever had that?
Probably.
It's like bubbly red wine.
I don't really know a lot about wine.
Yeah. I make this the grossest wino mom drink ever. I mix that with a little bit of white wine.
Wow. That's something.
I call it the pink tide.
Good for you.
In recognition of, Latin American socialists.
Good for you.
Cognitive gets sent to the gulag. What else? What do you think of violence? We should play, there's Fuck, Marry, Kill. We should play Date, Marry, Guillotine.
I'm not doing that.
Again. The first time you and I met, that's how we passed the time. Anything else? Let's see. We talked about ice cream. We talked about alcohol. We talked about brotherhood. I'm an only child. But I do have Bodhi. Some of you guys met Bodhi last night. She's so cute. It's ridiculous. I should bring her on. What? 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 What are
comment,
you laughing at?
Assad's not a drinker.
Why is that funny?
It's just funny.
Why? Because you are?
I don't know. Should I? You just poured yourself another. Should I
Yeah.
give them? Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
Then when you come back, we're going to talk about what you think of Peronism.
No, I can't do that. Look.
We should play a game called What Will
okay.
Asad Do? Where
Okay.
you list the things you will do.
I don't subscribe to these,
Isms.
like I said, these isms. Yeah. So I don't subscribe to Maoism or whatever, but Mao proposed a very correct principle, I think, which was no investigation, no right to speak. So if I have not done an investigation, I will not speak on that.
Oh, I thought you were talking about some kind of legal proceeding, and I was like, I don't think that sounds very kosher.
You're the judge of that. I don't.
It sounds.
You can evaluate what's kosher and what isn't.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, I'll be right back.
All right. Let's see what else. So, did you guys all subscribe and hit the smash that like button? I think I'm going to take this down and then re-upload it because I don't think I want Bodhi 2020. She is so cute. Should I grab her? Maybe when Asad comes back, I'll grab Bodhi. Yeah, tell me what other features you guys would like to see. Yeah, I'm going to make this. This is going to be cool. So you guys get to see this. But the people who aren't here, thank you, Jay, who already subscribed. The people who aren't here, I think some of this is going to be a Patreon only segment. But yeah. I can't believe you guys don't know who, excuse me. I can't believe that you guys don't know who Shuja Asad is. I don't have, you can't, if there's no cleavage visible, so that's a inappropriate comment. That gets struck from the record. I mean, I don't know why I read it out loud. I probably didn't have to do that. That was a little, what else? Shusha Haider, yeah. I had to have Asad on because I had Max Blumenthal on last night, and that gets me called an Assadist, so I had to have on Asad Haider. I made that joke not in front of Asad because I think he would groan at it. Yeah, I've had Shuja on the show, Asad on the show. Okay. My friend is saying, do not take it down and re-upload it. I've been depressed since Bernie dropped out, so not paying too much attention to political news. You are like the 17th person who has said that. I feel you. I hear you. Really, I shouldn't take it down, but Kelly, I'm going to get into trouble because people are going to use this and call me like a wino and everything. Yeah. What else? Oh yeah, you're right. God, Scarvin Gnome is very negative. Hold on a second. Hello? Hi. I'm recording some more. Yeah. Wrapping up soon. Bye. Everyone's a wino now. Yeah, we're all German. We're all winos. What else? Yeah, I think I'll edit this. I mean, I just think we will. It's good to edit out the tipsy parts. Bernie dropping out, and this time it was like death. I was mourning, maybe just no. I was mourning also. I did answer the phone. It was my mom. I need to make sure there was nothing important. Yeah, everyone should drink. This should be the drinking hour. Hi, Phil. Phil's a good friend of the show. Phil, what was the email, the episode you super chat, not monetized yet. So I think you have to be monetized to get that. So, but we're on our way. We're on our way there to that super chat land, the land of the super chat. Yeah, I was filming. We actually recorded, we were recording Useful Idiots when we learned that Amo Bernie, Saint Bernard, had suspended his campaign. And I was pretty angry. We need an official K-Helps weekly open bar episode. Yeah. Happy hour. AOC's future. Okay, Sam L says, how do you feel about AOC's future? She has a tough election coming up. I'm still a little mad about her making a video with Elizabeth Warren. I don't know if I will ever forgive Warren. Real talk, Warren is like more of a disappointment than, I mean, Biden's not a disappointment. Biden is like what you see is what you get. We all knew that about him. Warren should know better. Really depressing. Okay, how many subscribers do I have? I have enough subscribers, but I need certain watch hours. So Kelly is going to be mad at me because I want to take this down. But do the watch hours count even if I take it down? That's what I want to know. Because again, I would rather not have. Although this is fun, this has kind of a Twitch vibe to it. But I left Twitch to do YouTube because I wanted to do more of a show thing. Twitch seems like it's really ideal for recording, like watching a movie. In fact, we should do that. Asad, we should do that. We should watch a movie and do Mystery Science Theater to it. Doing YouTube now. Yes, exactly. MJ Lee. One second.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. What were you doing?
I was getting another drink.
I know, but what were we talking about? I feel like there was something. Let's see. I need to keep it up for the watch hours. I don't know, guys. I'll just stream tomorrow. I can do a live stream just talking myself. How do you feel about AOC's future? I was talking about how disappointed. What a disappointment. No, but can I? Who is Krillin 876? Is this someone I know? Offline vids, no hours. Damn it. I really don't think I can keep this one up, though. I think, like, also, Assad is still considering the academy. Although maybe this will get you a job. What do you think?
This appearance?
Yeah, you'll get that. You know what it's called, right?
Wait,
it's called the Katie Halper Show Bump.
Somebody asked, are you a Assad couple?
Why are you laughing at that? That shouldn't be.
It's just a very presumptuous question to ask.
Yeah, I only have. I date different people. Last night I was dating Max Blumenthal. Tonight I'm dating Assad. That's messed up, Assad. Yeah, it was. He wasn't laughing at me being dateable, guys. He can't pour Robert Drink, rejects his application. Move over, Joe Rogan. There's a new sheriff in town. Exactly. Ouch. Did you see that from Garden Gnome? Garden Gnome, lots of shots fired by Garden Gnome.
Oh, yeah.
But he's very equal opportunity. So offline video is no hours, but if I re-upload it, does it count? I still have to support AOC financially when I can, and yes, I feel like all of you probably do about her after what happened. Where the hell is the super chat button? Well, I'm not monetized yet. That's why. So you guys are helping me get there. And once I get monetized, maybe I'll share some of the, I'm going to post the first part of this. And then the drinking part can be Patreon only. Yeah. What else? Okay, we talked about favorite movies. We talked about desserts. Thank you, Sam. We're gonna get you there, KT. It's true. You guys are gonna get me there. You need an edit guy, Katie. Who wants to edit for me? I'm accepting applications. An edit guy, you mean to put, I mean, I can edit this just into 2 parts and upload it, but yeah. Tomorrow, after this, stand by for Jen Perelman part 2, and then Max Blumenthal. I wonder how many of you guys saw the Max Blumenthal thing? Why does it have to be an edit guy? It could be an edit gal. What else? Okay, Asad, what else do you want to share about what you like to eat or drink?
I mean, I just cooked some pork shoulder.
Why?
Why not?
Because it violates both of our peoples.
I know it does, but you know, I just roasted it and I just ate the skin, which was very crispy.
I like pigs a lot. That's why I don't eat red meat. I don't eat pork or beef.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's something really niche that I could do that could get me tons of views? What is that thing? ADMR? I should have my chats in the ADMR voice. Is there an ADMR? What?
It doesn't work on me.
Oh, really? It doesn't, like, what does working on you mean?
I don't know. Some people say they get a special feeling from it.
Feeling, yeah. Is there a thrill to eating a non-kosher food, Katie? Okay, I don't know how well you know me, but I'm religiously ASMR. Sorry about that. I'm religiously. I'm an atheist fundamentalist. I'm not kosher. I was not raised kosher. My parents weren't raised kosher. My grandparents weren't raised kosher. So there's no thrill in eating non-kosher food, but I don't eat non-kosher food because I happen to not eat red meat. Although, no, I do eat non-kosher food because aren't you not allowed to have like shellfish or seafood or something? Yeah.
In Islam, shellfish is makruh, and my dad described that category as optional.
Oh, okay. Optional is.
I don't think that's technically.
Wait, is haram? What's so? Wait,
haram,
is makruh?
Haram is forbidden. Yeah.
Forbidden, and makruh is like on the edge.
Yeah, like I said, my dad said optional, but
right.
I don't think
that's really what the Prophet said.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
Islam is extremely easy to convert to. Did you guys know that?
Easier than Judaism.
Well, I mean, it's not an insult. Of course, everything's easier than Judaism. I think Judaism needs to be rejected 3 times or something.
It based itself on conversion. I mean,
right. That's what Jews didn't do.
Right.
Which is why there's so few.
Yeah.
No, but I don't know what you have to do for Christianity. Do you know what you have to do? Have you ever looked into it? You ever date a very serious Christian girl whose parents wanted you to convert?
I've never been interested in converting into a religion.
Yeah. Well, I think in Islam, you just have to say a couple of phrases.
Yeah.
We could all, I'm not going to do that, but everyone could become.
There is only one God, and
all praise. Oh, wait, I wanted to read.
Stevens song. There's a Cat Stevens song about it.
Oh, right. What was his name? His new name?
Yusuf Islam.
Yeah. Is that like me calling myself like Hadass Jewelry? Like Islam, I feel like that's cheating. What does that mean? Islam, like Judaism. Is that a last name? Does that really count? I'm looking for a very good comment by a British person. Where's the British person? British person, if you're there, repost your question. Is there a way I can search the questions? Do they keep it up there? Someone was saying how they had a very Every Italian Catholic I know in New York has a Jewish wife. Oh, you're Brit. Are you the Brit who's talked about like how great your numbers were with something? You had really good numbers at some meeting. It's no type pizza bagel. That's what exactly. That's what the Jewish their kids are going to be pizza bagels. Then there's Hindu. Have you heard of Hindu? Hindjew. Hindu. Then there's I made this term up. Potato famine latke. You know what that is, Asad?
Sorry, I was listening to the Cat Stevens song. What were you saying?
We should play it. Well, okay, one second, Lauren's done. I'm gonna read your question in a second. But there's pizza bagel when you're Italian and Jewish. Cashew, Catholic and Jewish, which could be various things.
I didn't know that one.
And then there is what I call potato famine latke. Do you know what that is? You should be able to figure it out.
Yeah, so Irish and Jewish.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up with a lot of those. Then there should be a Puerto Rican Jew term. Okay, so where's the question from Lawrence Dunn? Tell us what they've been holding these mass union rallies online in England. You said some other stuff about teachers. Oh yeah, we won't play the matzah communion wafer. I actually mentioned kosher. The kosher. What's the wafer called? The host. There's another word for it.
The communion host.
Yeah, but there's another word for it. So Lawrence Dunn, what were you telling us though about what happened in Britain? There seems to be stuff happening. I wonder if that's because do you feel like the British are more virtual? Virtual people?
Sacramental bread?
Yeah. I have some really good. Where did I go to high school? I went to a very fancy high school called Dalton. And a lot of people who dislike me on Twitter call me Dalton socialists. I think that's the term that they started. I'm responsible for that term. So someone like Neera Tanden, the beloved, much beloved, all praise be upon her. I'm a Tandenist. That's my religion. She talks about Dalton socialists. Which is weird. I don't really get, I guess when people say that, they're trying to say what? That you, I went to Dalton, but I also went to Kinderland, which is a socialist summer camp. But I think why do you, this is an interesting question, Asad, what do you think people, when someone says a Dalton socialist or they're like a trust fund socialist, is the idea, which I don't have, I'm not a trust fund kid. In fact, a lot of the people who they say are trust fund kids are not. But is the idea that like you're a sellout, you're not a sellout, that you don't have any cred because you come from privilege? But
so as soon as you said it, I thought about a little story by Brecht, by Bertolt Brecht, and he has these stories of Mr. Coiner, which is a really very interesting set of little anecdotes that you can look at. And one of them is called Going Hungry. And it's based on, it's like a sequel to another anecdote in which Mr. Coiner, who is this character that Brecht is writing about, who says that when he's asked if he has like a fatherland that he's faithful to, he says, I can go hungry anywhere. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Okay. But then there's another, so the follow-up to that is called Going Hungry. I've brought it up here, so I'll read it to you. He says, when asked about a fatherland, Mr. K had given the answer, I can go hungry anywhere. Then a careful listener asked him why he said he was going hungry, when in reality he had enough to eat. Mr. K excused himself by saying, probably I meant to say that I can live anywhere if I want to live where there is hunger. I admit there is a big difference whether I myself am going hungry or whether I am living where hunger is the rule. But in my defense, may I be allowed to say that to me, living where hunger is the rule, while not as bad as going hungry, is at least very bad. It would, of course, not be very important to others if I were going hungry, but it is important that I am against hunger being the rule.
Wow.
I think
That
it's
sounds
it's a good response.
It sounds very Shalom Aleichem like. Do you know about him? Shalom Aleichem?
No, what's that?
He's a Yiddish writer. Mm-hmm. And you know the song "If I Were a Rich Man" by I don't know. I mean from Fiddler on the Roof. Mm-hmm. That is so. Fiddler on the Roof is based on a story by Shalom Aleichem. And what's interesting is that the story that comes from the character of, I think his name is Tevye in that book, but his whole spiel, if you will, is he's like, if I were a rich man, I would, buy myself this, but I can't just care about myself. So I would, build hospitals in my town. Oh, but how can I just build hospitals in my town? I'd have to build it in the whole land. And then, what about my brothers and sisters of Israel? I'd have to build it for all of them. But then it gets past the Jewish thing, and it becomes it's basically universalism. Mm-hmm. And so it's funny that the musical turned it into the opposite, right? Like the whole story there was about transcending borders and transcending materialism and being a universalist. And they turned it into a song that was about, the opposite.
Right.
It's like all about what he would do for his, his wife and his immediate family. But he's pretty socialisty. Yiddish is just medieval German, right? No, Yiddish isn't really medieval German. It's kind of it's like a fusion language. But yeah, I guess the idea behind that, German, Hebrew, but there's some Polish in there too. Tevye's daughters, exactly, yeah. No, but the thing is that, like, the idea, I guess, is that you're a hypocrite if you don't come from poverty and support leftist politics. But I feel like that's like pretty bullshitty, because what apparently Neera Tanden comes from some financial struggle or financial insecurity, but I will take a wealthy socialist over. I'm not saying I'm wealthy. I'm saying that's the narrative, but I'll take a wealthy socialist over a centrist who has working class roots any day. I'm going to get that. How about you like that as a tattoo? What?
Yeah, I can't post in the comments, but I'm just putting this.
You can text it to me.
Chat. Yeah, okay. I put in the private chat the Brecht Stories of Mr. Coiner.
Oh, cool.
Which is just a really wonderful thing to read.
I don't read enough Brecht.
All these stories.
That's from Asad.
But that's totally right. I mean, what you say, I mean, the important thing is to be against anybody going hungry.
Right. Yeah, it's very weird.
But if you have enough to eat, that's all the more reason why you should say that it's wrong that others don't.
Right.
That's not a moral contradiction. That's
at all, right?
That's actually the logical conclusion.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah. I'm gonna send Neera Tanden your way.
That'd be great.
She has such an annoying voice. Do you know, by the way, we're talking about Joe Biden. Do you know that that he said this election round that he was arrested in South Africa visiting?
Yeah, I remember that.
Isn't that amazing? Can you imagine working for his campaign and having to say that, he actually was separated from his party in a South African airport?
Yeah, I mean, he just made it up or what? I mean, how did he?
That's a big question. We never know. Is it dementia or dishonesty?
Right. Yeah.
That's actually, I was saying this with Matt Taibbi the other day. It's like, it's his get out of jail free card in some ways, because it's like in a criminal case, if it's like there's a likely, if like another suspect or defendant is like equally likely to have committed the crime, it gets the other like they cancel each other out, right? Because there's reasonable doubt. So it's like Joe Biden gets that because he has reasonable doubt it could be either one. So he can't get nailed on either thing. Yeah. Dimension dishonesty, yeah. There's a lot in the D's, D and D. Dimension dishonesty, then there's also disingenuous or dumb. You guys see the video where it looked like Joe Biden was going to name Stacey Abrams as his Veep and didn't. Lawrence O'Donnell was like,
who do you think he'll name?
I don't know. Who do you think?
No idea. A woman, apparently.
Yeah. Well, he said a woman of color, so I was like,
wait, he did?
Well, he said in the debate, he was like hinting at that. It wasn't a hard, it wasn't a requirement, a guarantee, but that was what he wanted to do. He said, so you know who I think he should name if he wants to name a woman of color? Liz Warren.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think he has no chance. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I don't think he has. I mean, I think it could go either way, but I think he's incredibly vulnerable. And I think there's a combination of the way he's been coddled by the coddling that has occurred of him and the covering for him is just makes him that much more vulnerable, because the normal vetting that should have and would have happened didn't. And his vulnerabilities and weaknesses as a candidate have not been revealed because the media ran so much interference for him. And, you know, Obama. Yeah. I mean, I think Trump could lose, but I think that this guy's terrible. Yeah. Sorry,
I think Trump is not as strong as I would have predicted before because of how much he's bungled the current situation.
Right.
I mean, one thing that's really noteworthy is that old people are not so enthusiastic about Trump right now because they're worried about their own health.
Right.
And he seems to be cavalier about it.
Yeah.
And so that's one of his major, constituencies is older people. And so, but then at the same time, I just don't see how Biden can possibly compete with him rhetorically.
Yeah.
I mean, at any level.
I think they'll try not to have a debate, and that would help Biden. But I think in any debate,
he'd be crushed.
He'll be crushed. Yeah. Because libs don't get this. They're like, well, Trump also has done terrible things, and Trump has lied, and he's a hypocrite, and he's a misogynist, and he's been accused of, sexually harassing multiple women. It's like, yeah, and that doesn't stick to him. Like, no one cares. Like, apparently some polls showed that a majority of voters believe that Biden sexually assaulted Tara Reid, but are going to vote for him anyway or something, which kind of undermines my point. I still think it's stronger with Trump that he can get away with anything.
I mean, the relevant question is whether you can win or not, and
right.
they have shown no indication that they're capable of winning against him.
Yeah, I think that Bernie, one of his big mistakes was that he thinks he's being a team player by endorsing Biden.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, it's another indication of some of the limits of Bernie. I mean,
but then again,
last
it's like,
time, it was so disappointing, wasn't it? I mean, when he endorsed Hillary.
That didn't disappoint me the same way because he fought till the end. He moved the platform, which sure is I know Bernie is trying to beat Trump, but I think that he thinks that he's helping Trump by endorsing him early. And I actually think he squandered his leverage, and that leverage could have been used to make Biden more electable. So I guess I wasn't as depressed. It's funny. I'm trying to remember. I think thing is with Bernie, we knew he was going to lose last time. Like there was no question. So his staying in as long as he did felt very like insurgent and revolutionary, and was really inspiring and rebellious and taking on the man and the system, But this time he dropped out so early. And I really did think for a while he could win. Which and I don't think it's just like he definitionally would lose. I think there could have been things like he would have had to have overcome extreme odds. But I think he could have won this time. Maybe not. Maybe you think like, of course, they wouldn't let him win.
I don't know. I mean, it could have been that. I mean, it's clear they weren't prepared for what happened in Iowa, for example, and it took them by surprise. And so I can imagine them being outpaced by events. It didn't work out that way. So I don't know.
This is true. What people are saying here, I think that's true. Do not underestimate the pandemic playing a huge factor in Bernie's decision. I think that's true. If there was no coronavirus, he would have won Wisconsin as well. I think that's true. I think he felt, you know what they should have done? And I said this to someone the night before Bernie dropped out. I was like, what they should do is they should have some doctors for national health care, doctors for national healthcare plan, whatever it is, PNH, physicians, sorry. They should have said, we are calling on Biden and Sanders to suspend their get out the vote and to postpone the elections. And then Sanders would have agreed to it, and Biden would have either agreed to it so he didn't look like an asshole, or he would have disagreed and would have been very vulnerable morally. That's what they really should have done. I do think that he dropped out early because of I think he did because of Corona. I also think that the DNC has a lot of blood on its hands because they push people to vote in Wisconsin and Illinois and Florida. And we knew, it was obviously like all the poorer neighborhoods and the blacker and browner neighborhoods were the ones that had like people squished on top of each other. I actually had a really good interview with Abshir Omar, who was a Bernie organizer who was there in Illinois, and he took footage just on his phone of these voting sites, and like there was he said every single site he went to, not one of them followed the CDC's recommendations. Yeah, I know the Republicans in Wisconsin were terrible, but the DNC was too. And they and Joe Biden in the same exact video said that it was a good idea to vote and it was a bad idea to vote. I think PBO threatened him with in-person. Yeah. Would you have supported running? Yeah, I would have supported Bernie running as independent, definitely. I think he should threaten to run as. I mean, if I were running his campaign, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm running as an independent unless you give me the nomination. What do you think of that? Could have worked. So Bernie, he's a net positive for you think? I have to say, I definitely think he had a better chance than Biden. I always thought that.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah. And just so I know that I'm so obviously pro-Bernie, so sometimes people discount this, but I have to say, I've always hated Biden politically. Not always. Like, I was kind of embarrassingly pro-Obama and Biden in 2008. But I have to say that, wait, remember when Jesse Jackson cried when Obama was elected, but then he also said on a hot mic.
Yeah, actually, that made me cry, actually.
Me too. I cried both.
Moved by that, yeah.
I cried both times. I really didn't think I would cry in 2012.
No, second time I was disabused.
Well, no, that's the thing is I was disabused. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I was disabused, and yet still watching it. I mean, there still was something shocking about it. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that wasn't used as a shield. Like, you know, the racism he faced was definitely used in many. I mean, I did that myself. I would spend time like protecting him from racist attacks, and not like pushing him on. Not to sound like I'm omnipotent or something, obviously, but I think a lot of us were focusing on that instead of the drones, which of course are not exactly anti-racist, but but it was really, remember then Jesse Jackson was also caught, like you recorded on a hot mic saying he wanted to cut Obama's
cutting his balls off. Yeah.
Nuts. No, cutting his nuts off. Yeah. Which was like, or maybe even cutting them out. It was a funny turn of phrase. Yeah, that was great. But I did cry the second time, even though I was I never was that excited about Obama. And you know, the reason I liked Obama more than Hillary, what pushed me, I didn't really like either of them, was that when they went after his minister, Jeremiah Wright, who I was a big fan of, love what he said.
Yeah, goddamn America.
Yeah. And what year did Jackson say that? I don't know. It was after Obama was elected.
I'm gonna put my pork in the oven.
Your what in the oven? Oh, your pork in the oven. Okay, yeah. Yeah. When did Jackson say that? Does anyone know? Can someone look that up? Yeah, I definitely think Bernie had a better. We don't say balls, we say nuts. I didn't say that. I said he. But are you saying that, Phil? Are you saying, Phil? Are you saying we don't say balls, we say nuts, or do you think that I said we don't say balls, we say nuts? Yeah, the primary was incredibly painful. Yeah. Right. I got it. This is so intuitive. Guys, I'm using this really good program. Maybe StreamYard will become a sponsor of the Katie Halper Show. But look, it's so easy to use. This is 2-shot. What's the other 2-shot? Yeah, I know this is single. What are these other ones? Oh my God, that is so cool. Right. I really like that. What if I wanted one? Right. That is really cool. I really like this program. What's this? This is so I can show. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, got it. Okay, cool. Right. Great. Awesome. And broadcast. Okay, awesome. Yeah. This is, yeah. Thanks, Nick. Guys, Nick Palm is leaving. He's saying bye. Good night. This is a really cool program. I can share my screen. I can invite. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. Thank you. I know. I'm not going to share my screen. We'll get there. Yeah. Thank you. Good night. Yeah, StreamYard. Yeah, StreamYard is great. So that's what I'm using right now. How do I change this background? I'm not crazy about the background. Although I like it. It's kind of classy. Oh, is this it? What's this? I'm not sure how I do that. I'll have to figure that out later. Banners, brand. Yeah. Hold on. Oh. Right. What's brand? I know. Yeah. Right. What about what's the brand thing? Oh, yeah, let's do that. Yeah. And then let's do how do I change? Oh, those are the different. Right. So I can change it, like upload, right? Oh, that's so cool. Can I do that now? Sorry, guys. You must think I'm awesome. Guys, this is really cool. Don't you think StreamYard should be an official sponsor of the Katie Halper Show? Me too. I'm glad we agree. I want to, what about if I put up my logo as a background? Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks, Nick. Good night. Not saying good night to you guys, but of course you're free. Feel free to leave. How do I change this? So this is very cool. Rand default minimal. This is cool, right? Overlay. Let's see what happens here. Oh, that's an interesting one. Let me try to upload. Let's see what happens. 1 second, guys. Just waiting for Asad to get back from putting his pork shoulder in the oven. Let's see if this works. Trying to upload something. Oh, okay, that's my logo. It's a little chaotic, right? A little chaotic, I think. But it's not bad. What do you guys think? Too chaotic? She's more of an acquaintance than a trusted ally. Is she usually 5 wines in? Who said that? Who's an acquaintance? Tropical beach. I'm not 5 wines in. I'm like 2 wines in. That pic of me is so ugly. What do you mean? The lines are too crazy, right? All right, let me go back in and I'm gonna switch out the background. This, I guess, what do you think? I don't even know what that is. Is that better, or is this weird like aquarium look better? I also really like these roses things. Any ideas for what kind of branding or logos I should be using? Because I really do like rose stuff. Okay, because it's my middle name, by the way. And there's the whole socialist thing going on. Let me see. I'm looking for a nice rose pattern. They all have like watermarks on them. But I do like them. I told you guys it's my middle name, right? Let's see what this looks like. It's probably gonna look terrible. What do you, no, that looks like way too Valentine's Day themed. All right, let's hide this. What else can we try? Rose. Let's see. That's ugly. That's kind of nice. That's kind of nice. Oh, I like that. Let's try this. Let's see how that looks. Maybe too chaotic. Yeah, too chaotic, right? Damn. I'll figure it out. For now, let's go back to this very cheesy one. It's kind of weird. StreamYard, I expected more of you. I thought you'd have better backgrounds. I like that one more. What do you guys think? Better? A fog of sorts. The rose background looks like a bunch of... I'm not going to read that. Most people just use bigger photos. What do you mean? I know. What kind of Soviet... I actually wanted a Soviet style. Yeah, what do you guys think of my... Central Park? That's not a bad idea. The DSA rose. You dug the lines. Oh, the rectangles don't complement the diagonal lines. Yeah, size. Okay, Warren, me. The lines are too crazy. Have on Robbie Martin. Sure, I'll do that. Okay, let's see what this is. I love this program. I'm conflicted because part of me wants to take whoever we can get in the age of Trump, but I have a hard time accepting someone like Warren after that stunt she pulled. Yeah, I know. I mean, I also happen to think this is what I was going to say before, and I started saying, but like, I don't think that I've never in recent history, I've always disliked Biden's politics, but I actually used to think at the beginning of the primary, I thought he and Bernie were the only electable ones. And then as I heard Biden talk more, I stopped thinking that he was electable. So, and that's not, you like the plain black? Okay, this isn't plain black. This is like black with some leaves going on. But Soviet visuals and IG. Oh, I like that. Good idea. Yeah, I know. So I shouldn't have any. So just a solid color. Yeah, I think I want to make my logo me. You know what? It would be cool. Me doing that Soviet thing, like that woman. What do you think? I don't know if Kamala is electable. I think she's impressive. I actually think she's not as good on her feet as she should be to take on Trump, because she's a prosecutor, so they're good at like prepared stuff. Something abstract or solid, like what? Where does Assad go? Maybe I should use the Viewpoint magazine's logo. Let's try that. Let's see how that works out. Save image as. What's this image? This is cool. What's this? Viewpoint magazine is pretty cool. What about Guernica? Guernica, as it's actually pronounced correctly. Assad, where'd you go? All right, I'll go to single whatever thing. I know. Use Assad's face for.
I'm back.
All right. Well, we were just talking about using your face for the as the logo and background.
Okay.
Yes, Picasso. That. Yeah. Maybe I should use. I was saying Guernica. What do you think of Picasso's politics, Assad?
Reasonable.
Reasonable. Did you guys see that? What was that show called? Hannah Gadsby, The End of Pal. I can't do an Australian accent. Although I really recommend the show Rake. Have any of you seen the show Rake?
Rake.
Yeah. Have you seen that?
No.
It's really good. It's Australian.
Hmm.
What was the show that Hannah Gadsby did? You know, her stand-up show about the end of what was it called? You two are so chill. I really appreciate it. I know I can be kind of frenetic, but I think you bring out my chill side.
Which show are you talking about?
Hannah Gadsby's special. Oh, come on. Eileen, it was called something. It was like one word. Gadsby. What was it called? What was it called? Hold on. You know, she did this whole pretentious thing. Nanette, which I actually liked more than I was supposed to like. But I got to admit that one second. Nanette she went on this thing about Picasso and how terrible he was with women, and she went through all these men in history who were terrible with women, which was true, point taken. And then she started talking about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, but it was like she didn't criticize Bill Clinton. It was such a weird miss. And she just talked about how horrible it was for Hillary Clinton, which is kind of epic and on brand. Yeah, that's a tank of a phone. I have my phone's a tanky. Do you see how I have blue tape on that? That's because when I put it away, it's so hard for me to find it if it's black, because it just look. You want to see guess who's my how can I show you my screensaver? How do you do it so that it's just your screensaver shows up? I want to show you guys. I have Bodhi. Favorite living writer, Joan Miro. Yeah, that could be cool. Favorite living writer and deceased writer. Asad?
Like I said, lately I've been very interested in the writing of Alain Badiou, who is still alive, and there was a documentary about him which became available for free on streaming. You can find it.
What's on stream? Is streaming a thing?
You can stream it for free.
Oh, so maybe we can do that. We can watch that.
Sure, if you want.
At some point.
It's kind of for the fans, you know. It's like old Badiou talking about like his life, showing photos from his life. But I mean, dead writers is like too much. It's like Marx, Lenin. You got all kinds of people. How do you pick one?
What do you think of Trotsky? The show.
I
Just
have
kidding.
not watched Trotsky the show. Trotsky the guy. He never did it for me personally.
As my late uncle said, Stalin was a lot closer to Lenin than Trotsky was, but still, they didn't need to assassinate him. That was unnecessary. Yeah.
This seems reasonable.
Yeah, it's a pretty Stalin. That's called Stalinist generosity. What do you think of Stalin? Let's just go there.
Is that really what you want to talk about?
Yeah. Good, bad, what?
No, there's no. You can't answer such questions.
Why not?
No.
We should have a show called Asad Haider, what I will talk about. Dessert, not Trotskyism, not Maoism, not Leninism, not Stalinism. But when it comes to dessert and drinks, I'm an open book.
That's true.
Well, Spanish Civil War.
What are you asking?
Anarchists or communists?
Look, there were a lot of problems to consider in the Spanish Civil War. I mean, there was the really genuine and important idea of the left, communists and the anarchists, that you could try to push forward to a social revolution. But then there was also the idea of the more center and mainstream elements of the Popular Front saying that we had to have a basic kind of military organization to defeat fascism. And both of these were compelling points. But then the problem is at the same time, you had the purges happening in the Soviet Union, and the purges got exported.
Terrible timing.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a brutal thing. I mean, I think, as with much of the history of the revolutionary politics of the 20th century, it can get so invested with moralism. And you get, figures like Orwell, for example, who participated and who used it basically as a way to license an anti-communist politics.
Right.
And that is a really, reactionary development. And I think we have to be very cautious about that. That's the thing. I mean, you have to be very critical of the authoritarian tendencies of what people call Stalinism, but at the same time, you have to recognize that that was used as a justification for anti-communist politics.
Right.
You have to be aware of that. I mean, like, whose interests are you serving?
Right. Yeah, my uncle also complained that a book was crippled by its anti-communism.
Homage to Catalonia?
No, another book on the Spanish Civil War, actually. Adam Hochschild or something.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do feel like the violence question with communism and Stalinism is like sometimes done a disservice. We do a disservice to the left when the answer is like, look at how much violence is in capitalism, which is true. And I get the relativism issue, and I get the like, what are the aims of the narrative? But I do kind of feel like there should be an honest discussion about violence.
Okay, I'll say something about Stalinism.
Okay. Yes.
Here's the thing. Look,
you're like Bernie Sanders.
We were talking earlier about the rules, the role of individuals in history. And part of the point was to say, okay, yeah, individuals have a role in history, but at the same time, individuals are also the effect of I shake my legs and the screen shakes. Anyway,
That's what a big mover and shaker Asad Haider is.
Yeah, the individuals play a role in history, but individuals are also the effect of
Not just the
underlying
cause.
structures.
Sure.
And the problem is that the whole category of Stalinism is, for me, a suspect category from the perspective of Marxist theory, because it's one which reduces all of these phenomena to an individual personality, rather than understanding them into the terms of underlying structures. So if you want to look at what happened in the Soviet Union, for the whole post-revolutionary history, first of all, I'm sympathetic to let's say, the left communist interpretation, which says already in 1918, right, months after the revolution, you already had these movements towards bureaucracy and authoritarianism. It was already happening under Lenin and Trotsky. And actually, especially under Trotsky, who was really especially bureaucratic and authoritarian. That's the thing. And Lenin criticized him for this. And that was already happening. And the kinds of things that happened under Stalin's rule, I think, rather than explaining them in terms of Stalin's personality or Stalin's ideas, policy preferences, etc., you have to explain them in terms of the structure of the state that persisted after a transitional period in which the state was supposed to be undermined and abolished. Why did that happen? Why did the state continue to exist? I don't think you can explain it through one individual. And that's why I think, when people refer to Stalinism, we haven't got a good explanation. And actually, I think that we have to extend the criticism to Lenin. We have to extend the criticism to Trotsky too.
They don't get out of Gulag
they don't
free
get a
card.
pass. Yeah, and actually, in some cases, like just in terms of specific policy positions, Stalin may have had a better position than Trotsky on a particular question, let's say in 1928, So that's why I am suspicious of the use of categories like that. And that's why I don't use them really myself.
Right.
And you could extend and do similar kinds of analyses of the other terms. I mean, Trotskyism, Maoism, and so on. I think just you really restrict the scope of your analysis and the depth of the analysis if you focus them on individuals.
Right. I mean, to me, what Trotskyism means today is people who really don't like Assad. Not you, Bashir al-Assad.
They may not like me either.
They probably don't. Yeah, the two Assads, but a tale of two Assads. But I don't really get what Trotskyism and Tankyism means today. And I know you don't want to go there, but I am curious. So I'll have to have on. Do you have any recommendations for someone who can talk to me about this?
No, I don't know. I mean, look. I mean, I know plenty of Trotskyists who I really respect and who I think have politics that I really take seriously. And at the same time, I mean, I think
you respect them so much that you can't actually express your real thoughts on them.
At the same time, I think there are people who are called tankies who subscribe to a kind of legacy that I think we should take seriously politically, especially because, I mean, in the US, I would say, especially a lot of the Black communist movements would fall under the category that people would now call tanky. And if you write that off, you write off a lot of that,
Right.
of that history, and that would be really foolish, I think. So that's why, but that's why I'm being cagey about it. That's why I don't want to take up, because on the one hand you have a lot of people who are Trotskyists who are saying that they want to come up with a more from below conception of socialism. They don't want like a kind of like authoritarian from above conception of socialism. And I'm with them on that. And then on the other hand, you have people who call themselves Marxist Leninists or Maoists or whatever, who want to say that they're carrying on the tradition of all of these Black communists and Latino communists and so on in the United States. And
Latinx communists.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's an interesting term. What's your view on post-Stalin USSR?
What is there to say? It's a restoration of capitalism. Yeah, no, I'm not in favor of Deng Xiaoping. No, not at all.
Yeah. Although he was fun.
No, he was, he was no good.
Why? Why wasn't he good?
He was
a party pooper. He was not fun.
He was the basis for the Chinese road to capitalism.
Right.
Yeah.
He was the beginning of neoliberalism. Yeah. Human rights violations. Yeah. Anyway, as a friend of mine said, someone from Camp Kinderland, you don't need to have, you don't need communism to have authoritarianism. That's
true.
There are lots of options for that. Yeah. Which I do think that is true. That happens a lot. Yeah, that happens a lot. That like communism is in the special category of evil because of Stalin, but social democracy or liberal democracy or capitalism somehow is never represented by the worst of its leaders.
So somebody asked about this book by Zuboff, and I haven't read it, but somebody recently told me about a review. Where is it? Oh yeah, Evgeny Morozov.
Do you think we are approaching the same kind of surveillance capitalism they have in China? Have you read? Oh, is that right? Yeah, you haven't read that. Okay.
You recommended to me this review in the Baffler of that book, which I didn't get to read yet. But yeah, I've heard that there's a very good review of it in the Baffler.
Who wrote it? Maybe I'll have them on.
Evgeny Morozov.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another interesting question. So can you answer that question without having read it? No, the first part of it? No, okay.
No.
Here's another one. Is there a country that has a form of government that you admire that you could point to as a blueprint? Yeah, these guys did it correctly.
No.
Hasn't happened yet.
No, I mean, that would be a great limit on our conception of politics if we said that we just wanted to reproduce something that had already happened. The whole point, I would argue, of what politics is when we say that things can be different from how they are.
Yes, but you can also point to certain things that you think are more approximate or less approximate. I mean, I get that politics is the unprecedented, right? Like, that's part of what the vision of emancipation is. But also, I don't think it's wrong to look at certain things for whether or not you're going to reproduce them, right? You can certainly analyze things, and you can't be too sure. Like, you can't be too sure of it when you apply it to the future. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Looking at elements of things that you think were good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. The problem is, once again, it gets you caught up in these like sectarian,
right?
Yeah, the sectarian back and forth. And
you have PTSD, post-traumatic sectarian.
Yeah.
What is it? Post-traumatic stress syndrome? What is PTSD?
I'm
post-traumatic
really about it
stress disorder. You have post-traumatic sectarian stress disorder. Yeah.
Because then people don't listen to what you actually say. They just
dismiss you as this, that, or the
put
other.
You in a slot,
right.
You know?
Right. They're slotists.
Okay.
Another dogma. Yeah, I know what you mean. But I think there is something to authenticity. Speaking of Bernie Sanders and taking lessons, I get what you're saying. I do. But I also think that one can say, like, I prefer this thing, I tend towards that thing. But I also think that, you know, the focus should not be on these differences.
Well, I think the people who are watching should go to bed because it's midnight.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
So everybody
I do too.
Yeah.
I mean, your paternalism is a little problematic, but I'll agree with you there. All right. Yeah, this was good.
All right.
We should do 10 more minutes so we hit 3 hours, though.
Oh, I see, because we started 10 minutes after.
I'm just looking at the time, yeah. It's 9 here. We got West Coasters who are just in it to win it. No, but yeah, it's true. It's in the morning here in Norway. Look at that. We got Norwegians. We got West Coastians. Yeah, we don't need to go. We only 8 minutes left. Can we do that?
Okay, I'll do 8 more minutes, but let me just check my pork and.
Yeah, do a pork check. No sleep till Brooklyn. Okay, West Coast. This is fun though. I like this. Okay, so Kelly doesn't think I should take this video down. I'm a little nervous about it being, people using this against me. But then again, I gotta be, I know a lot of you guys don't like Jimmy Dore's politics out there. I'm a big Jimmy Dore fan. And one of the things that I like about Jimmy Dore is that he just owns all of his shit. Do mine, Katie? What's yours? Hold on. It's in the morning here in Norway. I said that. Speak of Jimmy Dore, I just got. That's funny. I just mentioned him. Any questions for just me or anything you want to say about Asad behind his back? Because now is the time to do it. Martin, okay, can you tell me, no, Latin American history is huge. Martin, what is your thing? Hold on. It is in the morning here in Norway. Okay. What was the thing that you wrote before that? Oh, I see. Someone wrote Martin. Okay, got it. I'll do this. I'll show that one. Good. Thank you for that one. But anyway, one of the things I love about Jimmy Dore is that he's totally unapologetic, which I think is very good, because I can be a little too apologetic. How did you like that Jimmy Dore show in Brooklyn? I went the second night. I was in it one of the nights. In fact, look at this. I'll show you something. Hold on. Look at this, guys. It's a live photo, so it's kind of funny. Let's see. It's not a great photo of me, but you know what? I'm going to give up my vanity. God, why was I draping that scarf around me? Hold on, you'll see now. Hold on. Let's see. Let me see if this works. Screenshot. Okay, let's see. Hold on. Did that work? No. You went, yeah, the second night was with Aaron Mate. I was the first night. Me, Kyle Kalinsky, Nellie McKay. I think Nellie McKay was in both of them. A dry red? No, not. Oh, that's funny. I like your dry humor, Katie. And then Cognitive says, Katie, a dry red. I'm actually almost always a white wine drinker, but Lambrusco I like. Remember what my drink is called? Remember what I called my drink? A pink tide. In honor of Lula. Any questions just for me? Unholy mix. Yeah, true. I'm equally a lover of both Majority Report and the Jimmy Dore Show. I live in divided world. Sometimes it's a little hard to reconcile. Right, because just so people know, there's a big beef between Sam Cedar and Jimmy Dore. And that is something that I feel like, Asad, maybe you could moderate.
What?
This war, this Jimmy Dore versus Sam Cedar war.
I don't know anything about it.
I think, no, but the point is you could just deliver a message of post-ism.
Oh, I see. What are the...
Okay, Martin read...
I'll tell you that isms that are conflicting? Their
big fight there was about, I think, voting for the lesser of two evils versus... it was Jill Stein versus Hillary Clinton, I believe, was the big thing. Okay, let's see. Would you agree, this is from Martin Rad, would you agree that the era of ism is over and we need a human-centric paradigm to replace it through direct democracy with the security of a digital signature?
I don't know. There's a lot going on there. I don't know whether it's something that you could sign on to or not unproblematically. I mean, I don't think that the era of isms is over in the sense that I'm saying I still adhere to communism, is that in the sense that I think that we still need an idea of human equality and of universality. I mean, that's something that still needs to be asserted against the dominant way of thinking. We still need an ism in that sense. At the same time, we don't need the old isms of particular like identities and labels that have been associated with the history of socialism. So in the one sense, we need to transcend those old sectarian isms. On the other hand, we still need to assert an antagonistic ism against the dominance of capitalism. And it will involve direct democracy. It will involve using the capacities of technology that are available to us now. It means, technology now gives us the ability to do a kind of planning of a society that was not available to people who were trying to plan the economy of the Soviet Union and so on. I mean, we have the technology in all of our pockets that can do calculations that are way beyond what a central planner in the Soviet Union could have possibly done. So we have the ability to go beyond that. So in that sense, that matters.
Revolutions in Our Pockets by Asad Haider. I think we just came up with your book title.
Oh, yeah.
No. And right at the 3-hour cutoff. Yeah. So, and someone says you had a very calming voice. So you definitely got to write that book, and then you got to do an audio recording.
All right.
And I'll do the like frenetic Jewess recording. So you have both, all the ground covered. You got the calming, I don't know what your accent is, but something. Now, if you want to hear what Asad would sound like if he was Jewish, you know who you have to listen to?
So you're going to have him on tomorrow or what?
Shuja Haider. Yeah. No, but I'm going to have Shuja on at some point, probably sometime after next week. Back on tomorrow. So I'm torn. I have some people telling me, don't worry, the whole thing is up there. It's all up there. And if I take it down, we'll see. If I do take it down, I'll post the whole thing anyway. But yeah, this was great. This was fun. And make sure you subscribe to this channel. Smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button. Follow Asad on Twitter. And I'm not sure if I'll be back tomorrow or if I'm going to wait until Friday, Thursday or Friday, because I think maybe I have to build up. Not sure. I tend to rush into things. But this was good. I think we all learned a lot. I know I did. I know Asad did, because he got to talk to me. So yeah.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to hit end broadcast, and yeah, this was great. And I will see you guys soon. And Asad will come back soon too. And maybe we'll do a multi-panel thing, because this cool app lets you have multiple guests. My dream is to have a Haider versus Haider chat.
Yeah, it'll be about baking pies.
Yeah, baking versus cooking. Yeah. All right, everyone.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Okay, will I come back again? I will be back. I'm not sure which day. It probably will be definitely Friday. Not sure if I'm going to come back tomorrow night and the night after, but definitely Friday. Okay? Bye, everyone.